Hi, my name is Emma Scott. I'm an incoming fifth year double majoring in sociology, culture and communication, and political science data analytics. I'm participating in the TRELLS program this summer, and I'm being mentored by Dr. Margaret Roberts. I'm so incredibly grateful for the program funding and support from TRELLS and the supportive and knowledgeable mentorship from Dr. Roberts. I'd also like to thank my fellow cohort members and friends that I've met during this summer research program. My project is called Memes and Misinformation in the US 2020 presidential election. So what is a meme exactly? In many ways, you know it when you see it, but this intuitiveness actually makes it very difficult to define. Lemore Schiffman, in her 2013 book, Memes in Digital Culture, defines it as a group of digital items with common characteristics in content, form, and/or stance that were created with awareness of each other and were circulated, imitated, and/or transformed via the internet by many users. This definition is a little wordy, but it's frequently referenced in the literature, and I found it to be very helpful. However, I would like to add that internet memes are intended to be more funny than serious, although they certainly can be both. The same definition of a meme applies to political memes, but there are a few more patterns to be recognized. Political memes can start out non-political, but become political as people riff on the format. The This Is Fine dog started out as a normal comic from Gun Show Comics in 2014. Over time, however, it became closely associated with politics, particularly in times of crisis. On the right side of the slide, we have two examples of the meme applied to the issue of COVID-19, among others. Political memes can also develop in the opposite direction. Also, even though most memes are image-based, not all of them are. A great example of both phenomena is the CDC Recommends meme. This meme started out with an official recommendation from the CDC in early to mid-April about what activities people can return to post-vaccination. However, this recommendation quickly turned into a meme format, claiming that the CDC recommends things that have nothing at all to do with public health, such as sending an email rather than calling for a meeting that wastes people's time. So why are political memes important? I argue that political memes are a legitimate form of political participation worth studying at a scholarly level for a number of reasons. First, posting political memes can be a coping mechanism in times of high political stress or crisis, like with the This Is Fine dog. Second, memes and humor more generally are much more accessible than traditional news sources, particularly for young people. This is a double-edged sword. Memes are certainly not an adequate substitute for formal and fact-checked news, but they can inspire someone to pay more attention to events that they may not have otherwise known about. Even if they aren't a primary way in which we process current events, they help us to analyze them from an alternative angle. Third, the accessibility of memes makes them a potential tool in protest movements. A few scholars have looked at this topic specifically with the Occupy Wall Street movement, finding that memes, such as in the top right corner of the slide, had an important effect on the success of the movement, making people aware of economic inequality who might not have otherwise known. Finally, memes have become potential routes for radicalization and hate speech, which you can see in the bottom right hand of the slide. And these should be taken seriously at a scholarly level. An example of this is Pepe the Frog, which has formally been recognized as a hate symbol by the Anti-Defamation League, despite starting out as a harmless comic. The relationship between memes and misinformation. During major political events, memes and misinformation spread together. While memes are usually harmless and in some cases really important for democracy, they do frequently share factually inaccurate information. If you think back to the CDC Recommends meme, the CDC certainly didn't say anything about fist bumps being cool. On the other hand, misinformation has huge consequences in many areas of our lives. If a post went viral saying that the CDC recommended injecting bleach rather than vaccines, it would be extremely dangerous. Social media sites must develop a way to filter out misinformation without removing memes. Unfortunately, current censorship algorithms don't do a very good job of this. The two images on this slide are screenshots I took from my phone on Instagram. A search for COVID memes comes up only with links to Verified Who and UNICEF pages. When I clicked the See Results button, I was able to find memes, but I ran into warning messages every step of the way, with a pop-up link to formal news sites showing up before I could post a meme about vaccine hesitancy. COVID misinformation is extremely dangerous, but COVID memes aren't. Instagram just doesn't know the difference, so it tries to filter out everything. This isn't the end of the world, and it's certainly better than leaving all the misinformation up uninterrogated, but it does discourage users from analyzing the news in a playful way, which can be really important. At best, this overactive algorithm is irritating, and at worst, it can cause distrust with the platform altogether and a feeling of being personally censored. This project is a case study of the memes and misinformation that spread concurrently during the week of the US 2020 presidential election regarding the slow ballot count in Nevada. Both types of posts were fueled by the anxiety and uncertainty about the election results and frustration with how long it was taking. While the memes were short-lived and had little impact after the election was called, the misinformation ended up forming an overall narrative that the election was invalid and stolen. This narrative became the primary cause of the January 6th insurrection. This all makes for a great case study. I was able to collect tweets about the Nevada ballot count from that week to analyze both quantitatively with descriptive statistics in a classifier model and qualitatively by reading the tweets individually and comparing them to definitions and examples in previous literature. After qualitatively analyzing the content and context of the Nevada count memes and misinformation, I attempted to develop an algorithm that could tell the difference between them. I collected around 22,000 original tweets and replies containing Nevada and count, ballot, or vote posted between November 4th, 2020, the day after Election Day, and November 7th, the day Biden was declared president-elect, using a consumer research source called Brandwatch. I chose this date setup because most of the memes took place during that time, specifically because they were fueled by the anxiety of not knowing the results. From there, I hand-coded a random sample of 600 tweets according to 4 categories: memes, misinformation, news, and commentary. Then I developed a supervised machine learning algorithm using a bag of words and lasso method, such as whether using metadata for each tweet, such as whether the user was verified, the timestamp in which it was posted, etc. I did all of this in R. With the resulting classifier, I assessed the precision and recall with various sets of metadata to find the most accurate model possible. This slide has some examples from my hand-coded training set. This meme one is a pop culture explanation for why Nevada was so slow to count ballots, but other memes had people claiming they would personally go to Nevada to help them count, or personifying Nevada as lazy or distracted. This misinformation example is one of the more straightforward ones, with someone claiming that a dead person voted. Other misinformation tweets were a little more difficult to recognize, like the common misunderstanding that Nevada simply stopped counting each afternoon. This is an example of tweets in the news category. Pretty straightforward again, it's just a link to an article posted by a verified account. News was the smallest proportion of my data set. I found that most tweets related to the Nevada count were memes, misinformation, or primarily commentary. Finally, here's a commentary tweet, which informally talks about the election in general. And again, commentary made up the majority of my hand-coded set with more than half. Unfortunately, the bag of words and lasso method only went so far. In the most accurate model I was able to develop, only 57% of the tweets in the validation set were classified correctly. Of the tweets it classified as memes, only 57% were truly memes, and of the tweets it classified as misinformation, only 33% were truly misinformation. This means the model has very limited applicability. However, it is important to note that social media sites are using much more elaborate methods with much more expertise and resources to filter out misinformation than I have access to for this project. My most important finding here is that finding the difference between memes and misinformation using machine learning is no small task. By far, the most difficult part of this project was the hand coding. Even with my adapted formal definition, the intuitive and therefore subjective nature of memes makes them very difficult to pin down and operationalize. I constantly had to reassess my codebook to make sure the net was wide enough to reliably recognize memes and the misinformation that I wanted, but small enough to not catch a ton of commentary along the way. I have 2 examples on this slide of tweets that were difficult and could go into several different categories. One way that I'm currently trying to solve this problem is to have other people code the tweets and assess intercoder reliability. But this still doesn't fully fix the problem of subjectivity. One person's meme is, unfortunately, another person's misinformation. This project has a few takeaways. First, while the formal definition of a meme by Lemore Schiffman is very helpful, it was also written in 2013 when LOL cats were a thing and Doge was the height of meme culture. It definitely needs an update. Second, I found that political memes have an important impact, both positive and negative, on political participation and awareness, and we need to study it more closely. Third, memes and misinformation spread concurrently during times of heightened political anxiety. And finally, fourth, finding the difference between them can be difficult even for a human coder, let alone artificial intelligence. Thank you so much for your time and attention. If you have any questions that can't be answered during this session, Or even if you just want to send me some funny political memes, feel free to email me at ecscott@ucsd.edu. Thank you so much.